Going to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge, and if you'd like to remain standing, we have Pastor Holmes here to lead the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Just nice to be with you all. Let us pray. Lord God, we gather today and acknowledge who you are and how you love us. And we hope and pray that you would be present amongst this body this evening, that you would lend your wisdom, that you would lend your spirit, that you would lend your guidance, that voices of everyone would be heard, including those whose voice has sometimes been taken away. We pray that as we enter into Thanksgiving, that we can live with thankful hearts for all that you have done and all that we do for each other. Help us, Lord, to be a community that is united by love, where no one is forgotten and where everyone is cared for. This we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Holmes. Roll call.
Tom Valdez,
Here.
Glenn Doucette, here. Mike Gunner,
Here.
Barb McHenry, here. James Eitzen,
Present.
Jerry Hayes,
Here.
Tim Waters.
Present. Move on to the minutes of the November 8th, 2021 meeting.
I move to approve the minutes of November 8th, 2021 as presented.
Support. Moved and supported to approve the minutes of the November 8th, 2021 meeting. Are there any questions or corrections? If not, you can call the roll, Lisa.
Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes, the minutes are approved. Presentations and communications. At this time, council would like to give chief an opportunity to address village council and its residents.
Thank you. I've had the honor of serving as the chief of police for the village of Blissfield for the past 8 years. As with anyone, however, I can and have made mistakes. When a mistake is made, I generally look to correct the mistake and move on. Approximately 3 months ago, I made a mistake in judgment by revealing certain information to a third party who arguably was not entitled to that information. It was my ethical obligation not to share that information. Innocent people could have been harmed by my indiscretion. I apologize for this and can see that it was a serious lapse of professional judgment on my part. I take full responsibility for my actions and generally appreciate the village administration's decision to move forward and allow me to remain in my position as village police chief. I respect the role of the council president, the council, and the village administrator, and the citizens of Blissfield. I pledge to move forward in a manner supportive of the administration and the village. Over the past 8 years, I've worked tirelessly to develop a trust and respected department, and I am grateful for that to continue. I truly enjoy working in Blissfield because of this team. I'm hopeful that all of you will accept my apology and allow our relationships to heal. I am sorry for any and all stress and hardships this may have caused. From my perspective, all of us can consider this matter closed and we can move forward. Let me assure the administration, I will not have any discussions with anyone outside the village administration, including the media, regarding the situation, as I expect the members of the village administration will show the same measure of discretion. I further pledge to respect the private nature of any information which comes my way in the future as a result of my employment with the village of Blissfield. And I assure the citizens of Blissfield and the village administration that this type of situation will never occur again. Thank you, and I look forward to coming back to work next week.
Chief, we look forward to having you start work again tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Chief, before you exit, may I ask one quick moment here? I'd like to thank you for your apology. And while you're here, I'm wondering if you could just clear something up. There's been a lot of misinformation on social media, specifically about me asking you to write a ticket to a person who hit Ray Jones after a council meeting. It has been all over social media with my name attached to it. Could you please clarify that I have never asked you to write a ticket to that person or anyone else?
You never asked me to write things to anybody.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you so much, sir.
Since you brought it up, I want to say this, I've had absolutely nothing to do with anything that's going on social media. I have been dark on social media for the last 3 months, trying to handle the situation as professionally as I could. So anything that's happened on social media, I can stand here and tell you that I've had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys, meeting you all.
Yes, sir. Take care, sir.
I do have one more comment if I may. or
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, I would just like to go ahead and also say thank you to our supporters. This is from Bob and myself regarding the recall. We would like to clarify that the wording was dismissed, but more importantly, that the factuality of the wording of the recall was called into question by Judge Catherine Sala. And I think that that's a point that needs to be addressed as well. Thank you.
All right, thanks. On the presentations and communications, continuing that, number 1, council intent, understanding the village code section 150.010 special rates. Danielle.
Council, I have put this agenda or this item on the council agenda because I felt that we needed as staff to have some clarification and direction. So I'm sure as everybody is well aware, council, you set the rules, you're the policy makers of the village. And I want to make sure that we as staff are following through the way that you intended this code to be written. When I read this, I actually interpret it differently than Brandon interprets it than other employees, which is an issue because I was not present when this was changed, so I don't know what the intention was. So all I'm asking for you guys is if you recall the conversation, if you read this ordinance, what does it mean for the fees at the trailer court specifically? I did put it in the agenda because I wanted you guys to be able to read that ordinance before asking you the question. But I'm just looking for some guidance on what exactly the rule was that you guys were trying to make so that we as staff can either enforce it as it's written, or if we need to amend the ordinance to be more clear in the future, we can do so. But that's really just some guidance would be appreciated.
I really don't recall the conversation, but Mr. Rupp came in and talked to us about the rates, and if anyone could give me some help, do you remember what he was wanting from that?
Yeah, he just, again, because the trailers kind of come and go by renter or by, I guess, lessee. The trailer park does own some of the trailers, and at that time, in the time that they're not unsold, Mr. Rupp didn't want to pay the availability fee. The only way that we said that would be allowed is if there was no meter service provided to the house or to the residence itself. So the agreement was that while they are available as for sale, if those meters were pulled, just like any other residence in the facility or in the village, there would be no accessibility charge because there's no service provided to that residence. So as long as the meter's pulled, they don't have an availability fee.
And that is for, you're saying for sale, so what if it's a renter and it's unrented?
There are no renters there. There are no renters at the trailer park.
There shouldn't be.
Right.
Either somebody owns the trailer, like I did for a year, or you sell it to Rupp's, but you sell it to them and they won't rent it. They don't want renters there. They fix it up and sell it maybe, but they don't rent it.
Does that clear up some of the confusion?
And if the meter is pulled, they still are required to pay the turn-on fee.
Correct.
Even though they turn the meter or they do pull the meter and stuff.
I believe so. I believe we were sending DPW out to verify that it was done properly.
Okay. Does that,
Would that be a turn-on fee or would that be a plumbing inspection fee for them, because if it's a house here and the meter's pulled, then the inspector has to go out and do a plumbing inspection.
Yeah, that's true.
Any guidance or direction?
Yeah, that's a valid point. She should reestablish.
So, I mean, maybe the fee was intended to cover our DPW staff going out there to verify it was done correctly.
Probably could, because just like normal. If it's shut off and turned back on, yes, the DPW would go back out there to verify or to turn it on. And that would be recouping our costs for having them do that. So technically, they would probably go out and quote, turn it back on as well. Dan would re-hook it up, but it would be up to the village to return it back on. If that makes sense.
Dan does everything when it comes to them, every single thing, so that's why we didn't charge the $90, we should not be,
Are they private water lines in there?
is that?
Is it private water line?
That's my understanding. It is a private water line within the trailer park, but each trailer is individually metered so that each
Right.
space pays their own water bill or utility bill.
Yeah, they have one main meter at the road, right?
I don't
Oh, they
know
used
that
to,
they
they
used to, and I believe now it's all just individual meters. It used to be, my understanding, some time ago, it was a master meter. And that was for the entire park, that all the usage, everything, but then it wasn't. Now, I think my understanding again, is that Dan wanted to change it so that each space paid their portion of their actual usage. So I guess how you guys are how you're saying the ordinance, that's how I interpreted it, is that the meter had to be paid or pulled, I'm sorry, otherwise they would pay the availability fee. If the meter's pulled, I was reading they'd have to pay the $90 in order to get it back in service. But it would be one or the other.
Because Mr. Rupp didn't want it to fall back on him, he wanted to fall back on the residence owner, the building owner itself, which makes sense to me. Because they come and go, it shouldn't continue falling back on him when they leave, and then that resident sits there, or they're trying to sell it, it's gonna go, quote. You know, again, we fought this battle with other property owners of leaving and not being able to backtrack where they actually went to, and if they still had debt. So it would make sense to me that it stays with the property, it stays with the house owner, the mobile home owner, until they have it shut off. And then that meter's pulled at that time, so that it's not being continued, because it shouldn't go to Mr. Rupp himself.
How's the process, like, I think we should issue something nice on a clear day. So if a private residence owns that mobile home park and it's vacant, it's still get built. It's only if Mr. Rupp owns it, it's not built. That's what I was told to do when I first started 2.5 years ago. Any mobile home that Mr. Rupp owns, you do not build. It is vacant. I was not told other people being told. And then the second one was, I ended up doing it on somebody that moved out, and so was ready to sell their mobile home. Come to find out, I was supposed to be billing them, so I had a back date to bill on them. So what I've been told is, if it's a private owner and it's vacant, they still get a bill. If Mr. Rupp owns it, it's vacant, you just not get a bill. That's what I was told. The meter being pulled, we have to go, that's what we're asking you, and then we have to go both ways.
If the meter is pulled, there's no service to the residents, and they should not receive the availability fee. So dependent whether it's a private owner, whether it's Dan Rupp, if the meter is pulled, they shouldn't receive an availability fee.
Now, the next question that I didn't answer, now, at least I can't remember. Are we gonna require a plumbing permit because this is private, right? And households are private as well. Yes.
I would assume so, because any private
Right
residence needs to pull a plumbing permit to do such work.
now, and you can always see now, how many vacant meters on that park, and that's like, okay.
And that's why we, initiated that reconnect and hookup fee to recoup the cost of DPW going out there to verify whether or not the meter is pulled and when that meter is reinstalled. So,
It does, yeah, it's just kind of a weird, I mean, if it's the same as everybody else, I'm not sure why the ordinance calls out an exception to the mobile home park is the confusing part to me. That how you were explaining it is how I was reading it, but again, it's just kind of a unique situation and I just want to follow whatever rules you guys are wanting in place there.
Well, it's something we need to take a look at and create a process that is the same for all village residents.
Well, I mean, how you guys are explaining it, I think it is. It's just weird kind of how this ordinance
Right.
almost makes an exception that's not actually an exception.
Right.
So I think it may simplify it just to actually strike this exception out and say, okay, if you pull the meter, you don't have that. If you have the meter, you're getting your availability fee as would any other citizen, and it's not really an exception. If that is how you guys feel that was the intention and that you're comfortable with that, I would be more than happy to do a draft strike through showing what that would look like. And then I can also include when I bring that to you, what the ordinance says for every residence to look at that and make sure it is worded the way that we want. And again, that way staff and I know we're doing the right thing, because that was our biggest thing is I wasn't really sure what that was, so.
It's separate from trying to interpret this. Why don't we just create an ordinance that encompasses all residences
Right.
for all water access, and then notify Mr. Ruff of how it will be processed going forward.
Yeah,
He's
I
well
will,
aware that if he owns a trailer and it has water hookup, he will receive an access fee.
okay, yeah, I'll draft something up and I will get it presented to you guys. I'm not gonna promise the next meeting, but in the near future, Dan was invited tonight as well, and we'll make sure that he's aware of that next meeting when we discuss it as well, in case he has any.
Right, if he
Comments or
has
questions or
insight as to
anything,
why this
so.
was written this way, then I'll be happy to hear it.
Okay.
I'm sure there was some thinking behind it.
because he was being billed for it,
Right,
because it was going to him, not the homeowner.
right.
So I think they just wanted that.
Then we
cleared up
made
rather
some-
than we're
we-
seeking out the,
We just made some changes where he made changes there as well, so it's almost like there's a conflict from old and new.
It was about a year ago. wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's the conversation I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way to recall it, but,
He was separating. You know,
yeah,
it's almost like he wants to get out from under managing it.
I just think it was the water, he didn't want to pay for the water any longer.
Right, well, I think he was managing the whole water bill
Right,
as
right.
well.
But he's always been very good about paying his bills, water bills, Brandon. He's always been pretty good.
Okay.
There,
Yes, I did really ask you the first question, actually.
No.
He's been very good, yes. He's been very easy to work with.
That's good, that's good.
Well, I'll work on something that's just a little bit more clear and encompasses everybody and bring that back to council, so. I do thank you guys, I know it was kind of a weird request, but. Wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
All right, we'll move on to the agenda. 2020, November 22nd, 2021.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the agenda as presented. Any corrections, questions? You can call the roll, Lisa.
Mike,
yes,
Gwen,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes,
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, agenda approved. At this time, public comments on the agenda. Seeing none, unfinished business. Any new business? Moving on to the agenda. Item number 1, appoint village council president pro tem.
I'll move to appoint James Eitzen as village council president for temporary. I'm gonna respectfully decline. If you don't mind, I thought about it, Tim, and I just don't feel the need.
I move to appoint Gwen Dusa as president pro tem.
I'd support that.
Moved and supported to,
Does anybody else have any desires?
Based on history, it's been different, but that's fine.
What do you mean, Mike? What has been different?
Generally in the past, I would be like the longest serving member of council. That's just how it's been done since I've been on, but whoever can run a meeting.
Why, you know?
Anyone can run a meeting.
I don't think we had that discussion last year.
No, I was late to that meeting.
Yes. Could I make another motion?
yes,
One on the floor.
You,
Yeah, we have a second. We have a second.
But we're having a discussion about this, so you're saying that this is asking again, so this has been a pretty long standing kind of a thing?
In the history it was, but there was one time in 2010, I think I remember that it didn't happen. Other than that, that's all the only times that I can remember.
That's how it's been historically.
But again, council can run it however they want to run it. It's council decision.
so you could only make a motion if the motion on the floor dies, and then a new motion could be entertained, just to clarify for you all.
Or you can make a motion to amend the motion on the table. That's, so right now you got the
But
motion.
would have to be done by the first and second.
recommended motion to appoint Gwen Dusa as village council president pro tem. Is there any further discussion? I can call the roll, Lisa.
Barb,
Yes,
Jerry,
Yes.
Tim,
No.
Gwen,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, that motion carried. Congratulations for another year. All right. Resolution, item number 2, resolution, publicly funded health insurance contribution act compliance PA 152 of 2011. Dana,
Council, this item is an annual item that we are required to look at. I tried to put some information. I actually did kind of looked up what has been presented before, and they had done a good job before, so I reinvent the wheel. But council does have 3 different options. There's the hard cap, there's the 80-20 split for insurance, and then the exemption. Historically, we have went through with the exemption of this, and we do currently pay for the employees' health benefits. We would actually, based on historic costs, fall underneath that hard cap and be within that. However, if you look at our total HRA liability, that could potentially put us over if we were ever to fully expend that. I don't foresee that happening. Our employees seem to be very responsible when making claims against that, and I've kind of given a history there. You can see the cost is fairly low. I am recommending that we take the exempt option again this year, even though, again, historically, we've been under that hard cap. I know that this is something I have brought up previously throughout the budget and something that I would really like to look at. Our insurance comes up for renewal in April of next year. At that, actually prior, really probably in January, I will start working with Franklin Benefit and Lisa and the employees and looking at what our options are. Council will of course see and approve that. We give our employees a ton of benefits, which we are all extremely grateful for. And it's the one thing, we're not overly competitive in wages, but where we can be really competitive is the benefits. And I think that it helps us in recruiting and retaining our employees. So I think it's critical that we maintain as much as we can. Realistically, with budget restrictions, I don't know that that's going to be something we can forever do, but I would like the opportunity to look at where we can save, what we can do, or what our options are, and be able to do kind of a comprehensive, okay, if we go with this scenario, this, and so forth. So I am again asking to exempt us again. If you have questions, I will try to answer them. And
Why is it in April, Danielle, versus I was under the assumption that everything was, tis the season for all of that now.
I don't know.
I was
why
kind of
it's
curious,
April.
they just seemed, when you said April.
So I would assume probably at some point, that's when we switched like providers or
I
I
see what you're
started
saying,
working
okay.
with a different company. So that's just how it happened to fall.
Okay.
But again, that's an assumption. I don't know for sure.
So if there were changes during, the date goes along with that change versus this time of year per se.
Correct.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay, nope, that makes sense then, all right, thank you.
Yes.
So there's a recommended motion.
How does the HRA work?
So the HRA is used as, so if the employee pays out of pocket for certain expenses, they can submit to be reimbursed for that up to a certain limit though. So you can't just unlimited seek those funds back, but
Is that
whatever portion.
Is that withheld from the employee's payroll check?
It is not, it's fully, so it's part of the whole benefit package, so.
That's funded by the benefit.
Correct, yes. And again, my understanding when we looked at all of the different packages, and I was able to find one from a couple of years, so it's outdated. It looks like the HRA option actually helps decrease our overall insurance cost. And that's why the village had added that option onto the benefit package. And I'm not sure, I'm just not comfortable enough with insurance to explain why it decreases it, but.
We have a higher deductible with our policy, and so that offsets our higher deductible as employees that we have to pay. So we have to send in like explanation of benefits or receipts of what we've paid out, and then based on what the service was, they'll either give you a percentage or a flat dollar fee for reimbursement, but it does cut down because we opt for a higher deductible plan.
So to be eligible for something like this, you have to be in a high deductible plan.
Yes.
I was just wondering, sometimes they're withheld from employees and bank, sometimes they're funded by the entity, so thank you. So I would think our employees would benefit from the HSA if we could look into that for them.
The HSA versus the HRA,
Correct.
understand.
And certainly when we look at benefits, I'd like to look at a couple different things and make sure that we are doing something that's going to be beneficial to the employees, but still cost effective for the village.
That sounds good.
I'll make a motion then to approve the resolution exempting the village from PA 152 of 2011.
Support. Moved and supported to approve the resolution exempting the village from PA 152 of 2011. Aren't any further discussion? You can call the roll, Lisa.
Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes,
Bob,
Yes. The motion carried. Item number 3, resolution adopting purchasing policy.
council.
I just look at you, you smile, because it's funny.
Yes, so this is probably one of many things you're going to be seeing in the it's not probably, it is one of the things. So this follows the ordinance. It's not a change to the ordinance. It's just putting in a policy for the employees. So I am really big on, we have so many employees that have a ton of knowledge, and as everybody knows, we lost that. And when people leave or move on, it's nice to have these policies in place to retain that knowledge. So when the next person comes in, they can look at it and say, oh, that's what you do, okay. And they know they can just really smoothly transition. Not that employees are planning on leaving, but you never know. So I did draft this up. Staff and I have been meeting most every week, and we've all reviewed this. The intent is just to make things easier, to give us all a better understanding. I did put a section in here about credit cards. That is a little bit of a sticking point for me personally, because we are sales tax exempt. So I think it's really important that we make sure that we're getting those exemptions as much as possible. And when we're using credit cards places, we don't always see that. So I'm hoping that this policy will help reduce the sales tax that we've been paying out to certain places. And again, just kind of streamline the process. Also within this policy, ordinance currently permits administration or clerk to approve up to the 5,000. Anything over that comes to council. Within this policy, I am giving the department supervisors some wiggle room and allowing them to spend up to $500. However, it has to be within their budgeted amount. They still will communicate that to me, but then if they need to go out and purchase a tool to do their job, they have that ability to do so. And they don't have to try to come seek approval to go out and get the tools that they need. Again, the big thing there that we've all talked about is that it has to be within their budget. So if they only have $200, they'd have to come talk to me and we'll figure out how to get that either an amendment or moved forward. I think this will be a really good thing. Staff is good with it. If you have questions, definitely let me know, but just.
You've talked about the sales tax issue before and how it had always been taken advantage of, so.
Yeah, so I had calculated it 1 month, we had paid $142 in sales tax, which, okay, $142, but you times that by 12, I mean, it starts adding up pretty quickly. There are situations when we're traveling for training and we go to a restaurant, you know, we can't get that waived. Most of the time hotels will work with us. We're able to provide that sales tax exemption. So I just that's an important thing for me. We have a tight budget. We need to make sure that we're diligent and we can save wherever we can, so.
My only comment is, I believe the DDA director was 300. You may want to recheck with Heather. I think her purchase authority is 300. For the DDA
like
policy.
per the bylaws and
Yeah.
stuff, okay. I will have to, because I don't recall seeing that.
So may be the only issue or question.
And so I did have it at 300 for employees, and then I went back and forth. So if we feel like 300 is a better number, I'm okay with that. Because I had it 3, then changed it back a couple times, but I'm trying to remember because I just looked at those bylaws too. I just don't recall what they say.
We recommended to change to the DA level as well, but it makes sense. My biggest concern is like the emergency one, and administrators in the past have always been really good at bringing that stuff to us because, you know, if a pump blows or, you know, whatever happens catastrophic, we need to continue running things and, you know.
Yeah,
I'm glad
I
that
guess
it's-
that's a good point too. There is an emergency thing in there, which almost recently had come up. And that's something, if there is an emergency, I would definitely communicate that to you guys. In fact, recently I had sent the email about the water plant where we had lost the power out there and everything. And so that's why I kind of put that emergency piece in there, but
That's much easier than trying to call, an emergency special meeting or something like
right,
that. So
yeah.
so
And I mean, we have to have water. It's just, so.
Did this address the ethics and conflicts of interest that we had talked about as well? I'm looking at that section right now. I know it was something that we chatted about a little bit.
So I think there's a very short little piece in here. I have actually drafted, it's not quite ready for council just yet, but personnel policy, a council handbook, and both have a more detailed, in-depth ethics and conflicts section. So this is really just specific to purchasing and things like that.
I only asked that because I know we talked about some different t-shirts and things of that nature at some of the different stores.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Does this need a motion or do you need to look into the DDA?
I was
threshold?
actually trying to pull their bylaws since I have them saved here, so give me a second if you don't mind. I'm not seeing anything in here, but I wonder if that's just like policy you guys have, Mike? Do you know?
I believe it's in our bylaws, but you don't see it.
Name, boundaries, assets.
Well, does it make a difference if we approve the policy and the DDA bylaws are more restrictive? It's not the other way around. It's true, right?
Right.
And if the DDA feels the need to update their bylaws,
To the 500,
right?
good point.
If it was the other way around, I could see it being a conflict, but not this way.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the bylaws, Mike.
All right.
Yeah, and again, I guess it's up to you guys. If you want me to do some more digging, I certainly can. I think you're correct. It's more restrictive. I can also adjust the amount, or if I'm not in favor of doing something different for DDA. I'd rather have all the departments be more uniform and across the board, but I would not be opposed to just doing 300 if we're more comfortable with that, or whatever you guys feel.
Like, do you think that's something that you guys can discuss within the DDA and go up to that $500?
Yeah.
If it's at the 3.
I think the board would be acceptable to that.
I move to approve the resolution adopting the purchasing policy as presented. Support.
Moved and supported to approve the resolution adopting the purchasing policy as presented. Any other comments? You can call the roll, Lisa.
Mike,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes, the motion passed. Item number 4, approve wastewater treatment plant blower.
Sorry, I got too much stuff going on here. So we have at the wastewater treatment plant, obviously lots of things going on. We are in need of a blower, and this is something that will be replaced with the project, and the part is even ordered. However, it is something that'll, the actual blower, correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, is changing and it's going to be larger. We do need this to help aerate the sludge, and we actually rebuilt it last year. It's held out a little bit for us, but we're to the point we can't rebuild it. It's one of those things that it kind of stinks. We tried to hold out to get it replaced in the project, but it is something that we need in order to process and move forward. So unfortunately, we are asking that we be able to purchase this and be able to continue. What Randy and I did talk about though is once this is replaced, if this blower is still functioning, that we maybe be able to work with you guys to surplus it and sell it to another community or somewhere to maybe recoup some of that cost. But if you have questions, I will probably defer to Randy, but he or I can answer those.
Is this for the sludge tank, Randy?
Yeah.
Okay, in 2020, did we put a new motor in that or a new fan or something?
Last October, like it's a year ago.
Yeah.
We put new bearings in.
New bearings, okay. That thing runs pretty much
24/7.
24/7.
Is there an installation fee to it?
Nope. And that being down contributes to that sludge issue too, so we can definitely need those running.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time a week ago. With the fire hose.
Trying to break up the sludge.
Yeah, it just thickens and builds up down there when
It
it's back
costs
up.
us more in the long run to let it sit.
Yeah.
You guys want to come with some shovels?
Jake was just volunteering down.
I thought that's
I
what I
make
heard.
a motion to approve the purchase of a blower from USA Blue Book in the amount of $5,372.71.
Moved and supported to approve the purchase of the blower from USA Blue Book in the amount of $5,372.71. Are there any other comments? You can call the roll, Lisa.
James,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes,
Tim,
Yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes, motion carried.
Enjoy that blower.
What's been quiet here the last few years?
We're on to the reports. Administrators, any questions for Danielle?
If I may, I just have one quick comment. I attended my first ever Yuletide festival and it was great. I loved it. I just had to say that I thank everybody that helped and volunteered and made Yuletide possible. It was an awesome event. I've seen a ton of people. My kid thoroughly enjoyed finding the elf, except for the pack rat. Could not find that thing. But it was just great. So I just wanted to thank everybody that contributed and helped with that event. So, and good job to Heather too, and her group of volunteers and board that helped do that. So.
Any other questions for Danielle? Not, the rest of the reports are there. If you have any questions or comments on them?
Oh, just thank you to Officer Wagner for stepping up and filling in.
Sarge.
Thank you, Sarge, for these reports.
Appreciate it, Jake.
And we're moving on to public comment items not on the agenda. Make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Support. Move to support to adjourn the meeting. You call the roll, Lisa.
Tim,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
Barb,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes. Meeting adjourned.